Nonce gate, take one. Action. I said nonce. What they want to know, right? What they want to know. Yeah, it's nice. Well, I don't know. It's just nice, yeah, the friends in chat. What they want to know is, I've got 3 overhanging questions here. 3 overhanging questions. 1, is Phillip Schofield like a pedophile nonce? I mean, let's be fair, right? Let's be fair. These are the questions that people want to find. Like, I haven't looked into this deeply. Somebody sent me some information with a picture of him and the lad in a school when they were 12 and this and that. Like, I get there's a backstory to it. As a body language analysis, what I'm looking for is he telling the truth generally? I'm looking signals and stuff like that. But people want answers to questions. They want, is he a nonce, don't they? It's a no from me, says the theme. Fair enough. I'm trying to be reserving judgment until I see his body language, because I don't want to be coloured by anything I know already. I want it to just be a body language analysis, really. And then the other question is, did he groom the boy? Stargazer said, I think they should leave him alone now, to be honest, but I'm partly on the fence. Well, this is the thing, right? Maybe we should leave him alone now, but I'm about to start my content on it. I'm about to react to what's been going on, so I'm not going to leave him alone for another 2 weeks. So I don't want to feel like I'm bullying him, attack armchair detective. But it's a news story. This is my book. This is what I should be doing. Is when people do interviews, people have got questions. If I'm not going to be Nicola Bully every week, this is my thing, isn't it? It's a body language react. I'll give my honest appraisal, and we'll just see where we go with it. So that's the second question, though, is did he groom the boy? Like, it's okay if they met when they were 16, when he was 16, he was over the age. Well, is it, though? Because I think back then, laws about homosexuality were that you had to be 25. Even though that seems well wrong, and that it should be the same for everyone, I think it might have been against the law back. The law changed about homosexuality. I don't know exactly when that happened, but even though that seems well wrong and it should be the same for everyone, that was the case. So that's the second question, is did he groom, in a way, I suppose it's still wrong if someone's 16 and the other person's much older, because there's a balance of power situation going on, especially with Phillip. But I remember being 16 and I would have felt like I was a sort of decision-making, independent person myself. And I was certainly out there. I lost my virginity before I was 16, so I was certainly out there drinking in pubs and doing stuff. So whether someone could groom me at that age or not, I would maybe they could. Maybe I could be wowed by their position and their status, but it would be different than the way I feel the terminology exists in general sense, I think. I mean, I might be wrong in saying that, but Star Ray says he groomed a child, he's a paedophile. To look at someone so underage, your brain is broke. I suppose. I don't know, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing as a body language analysis, but I'm a bit confused myself about where the lines are drawn. You're saying that's like a very clear line, but then I know in our society, for example, Ariana Grande 16, when she was 16, she probably out there looking quite, I suppose she still looks quite naive and innocent, doesn't she? I don't know whether at some point she changed into being a little sex pot, didn't she? What about Justin Bieber when he was 16? At some point they turn into little sauce pots, and Justin Bieber at 16, he looks like a child compared to what he looks like when he was a sauce pot. Let's see him at 17. This is interesting to me. 17. I mean, he's always looked quite young. 18. America's different as well, because they don't start drinking till they're 21. 18, getting to be a sauce pot now, yeah? Getting to be a little, you think he's getting into the sauce now, don't you? At 19, you can't, I mean, are you telling me that 19, you're still a child, even if you're Phillip Schofield's older? Stargazer says she could get into clubs at 14. I mean, this is, in the UK, we do that sort of thing. We go around a bit earlier. So it might be an international thing. But I don't know when that, there's a line between 16 and 19, obviously there, isn't there? And I just kind of think to myself, I know that 16 is but it's the age of consent in the UK as well, isn't it? So why would they put it at the age of consent? if then people are going to say, yeah, but if you have sex with someone who's bad, that's the whole crux of what's going on with Phillip, I suppose, isn't it? He's saying, well, he was over the age of consent, but is it still grooming? So that's the question hanging over it. I don't know. Me personally, I don't think I can answer that because I don't think I'm an expert on this field, but I can read what Phillip thinks about it from what he's saying and when he body language. That's another question, right? Orbod says, well, I don't know if I can read that. I think it's really off sleeping with anyone younger than your own children. Yeah, I don't have any children, so. In the US, I get carded by paint or glue. They don't ask for ID for alcohol or smokes, but they ask it for paint and glue. Well, Tenny's obviously a child. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%, yeah. Anyway, I'm saying 16 and onwards here. I'm not under 16. I'm saying like legally, like, you know, irrelevant as to whether they seem grown up. Legally a child, but 16 and over, we start to get in between 16 and 18. And then in the UK, the way we live, I think, like, I've known 40-year-old people with 20-year-old girlfriends. Like, I just think the age gap becomes a thing where people go, well, it's a bit of a creepy age gap, but like, you see all the celebrities going around with them, don't you? You know, all the hot celebs with the young people on their arms. So I don't know, like, and what you've written there about assault, I'm not going to read out because that is a bit excessive. But I mean, obviously, sorry that it happened to you, but, and I'm not being flippant about it, but I just don't think I can read it on Twitch for those reasons we talked about earlier. But yeah, so that's the difference as well, right? What you said there, Bron Vixen, is position of power. Colette says something about a teacher as well, right? Position of power is an issue. It is an issue. That throws things into a different light, don't they? Because, I don't know, like, teachers are authority positions as well. You have to do what they say, like, you know, whereas Phillip Schofield, you don't have to do what he says. So, like, these lines, for me, honestly, I don't know what the answers are. And some people have said we should leave Phillip Schofield alone a bit. Some people, no, this is the question that's hanging over it. So at least I've opened the conversation. I know that, also, right, I tell you what, I know that individually there'll be people out there who sit on different extremes. There'll be 20-year-olds who act like 10-year-olds. There'll be 16-year-olds and you think they're 30. You know, there'll be people in the bar and you go up to them and say, hey, can I buy you a drink? And they'll go, I'm only 15. And you go, fucking hell. I mean, look how tall you are and how tall you are. Like, you know, you can be surprised, but it doesn't mean there's a general rule that it's okay for this and that. I think there'll be some people on the fringes of these conversations either way. So, yeah. So they're the two questions. Is he a nonce? Did he do the grooming? And what's the third question? There was another one. Oh yeah, the third question is there a big ITV conspiracy? Is it that Giles Brandreth and everyone else is in on it? Is this some sort of big... Because some people have said this is going to be like Jimmy Savile all over again. The BBC had their Jimmy Savile, and now ITV have been uncovered, and it's going to run through the whole shebang. So is he covering up for a bigger organisation or group? That's the third question. And of course, the generalities about lying and this and that. And I've taken you into a bit of a dark conversation place there, haven't I? You're having a bit of a dark conversation, so I'm sorry, but this is what you wanted. So, like, this is what I've been requested to do, so here we go. Let's see what Phillip Schofield's got to say for himself. This will be heavily edited. One final disclaimer, heavily edited, hard for me to get a good read. We know that Phillip in general is a TV presenter. The camera is on him, so he may feel that he's in presenter mode. We may get a different baseline of Phillip based on my impressions of him on the telly. Like, my baseline will be what I've seen of him over the years, so it might not be accurate. Maybe this is more performative from Phillip because he's on telly. You know, we've got to bear that in mind, and therefore, with a pinch of salt, I'll do a body language analysis, yeah? Okay.
I know, I absolutely know. There is no question I did a bad thing.
Wow. I mean, they've edited it. So they've led with that, which is the correct thing to do for a media standpoint. You know, it's shocking first. And we don't know what the question was, so it's hard to judge. But as you say, he does look very scared. Is he trying to pull a sort of pitiful look? Is he trying to pull a pitiful look here? You know, feel sorry for me.
I know, I...
The hand comes up. This is like... I wanted to say it's like bargaining, but I also feel it's... somewhere between defensive and aggressive as well. And like he's looking off, and his eyes are slightly disconnect. Again, I'm not, I do my joke, yeah, I do my joke, but do these people take cocaine? Like, because cocaine makes your eyes slightly wander a bit and stuff like that. It's a script, says Orbod. Of course, yeah, he will definitely have been planning his answers, definitely that. But also, he's being interviewed by the Sun, and they're a bit cheeky. They include some things in the edit that he might not think are going in, and they're probing because they're the Sun. So
I absolutely know. There is no question.
I absolutely know. There is no question. So qualifying statements. Usually if someone's doing a lie, they do qualifying statements. Did you eat that cake? No. That's the truth. Did you eat that cake? There's absolutely no question. The cakes are really completely not...
I did a bad thing.
And then and the pause did a bad thing.
No, there is no question. I did a bad thing.
So we're not going to name it then. We're not going to state it. And whatever's there is not being said, is there? So I did a bad thing. What is this bad thing? I've asked 3 questions and they're all bigger than just one bad thing. So I don't think we can accurately say, yes, you did one bad thing. Oh, that one time where you did this one bad thing and then everything else is fine. I mean, you've done isn't it that he's done like a 20-year bad thing?
Unprofessional.
Unprofessional. Unprofessional is an interesting choice of word because, yes, big up Star A's minimising statement. I'll take that and use it. It's putting it in a different box, isn't it? Like, it's not that it's grooming now. It's not that it's unethical. It's unprofessional. And so professionalism, oh, well, that Alison fucking ate that woman's chocolates. So, professionalism goes out the window. We all have a laugh on the telly. That Alison ate those chocolates, didn't she? Way. And the
First time. I know I did that.
First time, hang on.
Question. I did a bad thing. Unprofessional. First time. I know I did that.
First time, he sort of qualifies it as well with the first time was unprofessional and that was a bad thing. So is he also thinking that since then...
And there's no excuse. I don't have an excuse. I won't put forward an excuse.
3 statements there in one. There's no excuse. I don't have an excuse. I won't put forward an excuse. Again, I will agree. This seems very contrived because it seems like you've sat down and brainstormed what you want to say about excuses rather than saying, because they're different statements.
No excuse.
There's no excuse means outside of society, there is no one here that's going to absolve me of guilt. No one is going to accept an excuse.
I don't have an excuse.
I don't have an excuse means, as it says, I don't have one.
I won't put forward an excuse.
And then he raises the eyebrows in surprise when he says, I won't put forward an excuse. So it's almost that last one.
There's no excuse. I don't have an excuse. I won't.
That last one, a look of surprise. I kind of feel like he's been talked to behind the scenes and told not to put forward an excuse. Or like it's been a group decision not to put forward an excuse. Like, surprised that he's not going to put forward an excuse. That's the plan then, to do it this way. Maybe it's fear as well. But again, we're not specifying what you're supposed to be excusing yourself from.
And there's no excuse.
I'm a bit aware that I've stopped it several times. We're only 20 seconds in, so I'm going to try and let it roll a bit and pick out some big bits.
I don't have an excuse. I won't put forward an excuse.
Big edit. Note with the Sun, they do these big edits. They just want the chunky bits. They only want the bits that make him look bad as well, don't they? They don't want the bits that make him look good. So if you did a really good answer, that goes in the bin. So a bit of a funny edit. And of course, we're slightly closer up here and like she's talking. So I assume he thinks some of these things won't go in. Like in his world, in television world, when you're talking and when the camera's moving, it doesn't go in. It's cut out. Like Jimmy Savile eating the banana. So he feels a bit more... almost like, not off the record, but a bit safer in these in-between moments, simply because he spent 40 years on the television, and in those in-between moments, they don't go in.
Visited the drama. I don't have an excuse. I won't put forward an excuse. I visited the drama school. I visited all sorts of schools all over the country.
This is being said with a sort of aggressive, factual. I visited the drama school. I visited all sorts of schools. You know, he's almost agitated about the fact that he's being accused of something wrong here, having visited the drama school.
When I was asked to go to the drama school, and that was that.
See, that was that as well, like almost aggressively as well. I think he's very defensive over that whole aspect, and I think he feels that he hasn't done anything wrong by going to the drama school. Like, he was asked to. He's like almost accusing them of calling him in. Like, it's not like I go looking for kids. I'm not out there looking for kids. Like, they called me in. Like, I'm not a nonce. So he's very aggressively defending the position that he's not a nonce.
Drama school.
Yeah, the BBC one we're going to do as well, absolutely. It's 45 minutes, so it's going to be long.
And that was that. Because I follow 11,300.
You stuttered that. I follow.
That was that. Because I follow 11,300 people. So I followed him on Twitter. And I think he probably said what everybody says is, thanks for following.
Oh, I don't know that at all. I didn't know he was going to say that. He's keeping a very straight face. He's gone the poker face route for this. You know, he's been expressive earlier, raising his eyebrows and stuff, but this is just getting a very almost poker face, and again, almost like a pleading look here. This is not good. I followed him on Twitter because, of course, I followed thousands of people. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, the next follow-up question is, did you follow all the kids in the drama class or just this one? So, like, and the reason he's stating this is because this is public knowledge. You can go back and check. So the other stuff that happened, like, I visited the drama school, that was that. So all the information about what happened when you were there, we're not getting, you know, that was that. So what happened when you were there and you met the boy, and why did he choose to follow you on Twitter? None of that, no. Maybe we get it in the BBC one later, but interesting that is like closed book to him, and now he wants to project innocence, where I feel earlier he said, I did a bad thing. This is where you probably say, I did a bad thing. I shouldn't have followed him on Twitter. That was a mistake. What was I doing following 16-year-olds on Twitter?
And that was that.
Or he was younger, wasn't he, at the time, was he? He was 12.
And then it became more occasional career advice. It became more...
He does this with his hands, like reeling it in.
Thanks for following. And that was that. And then it became more occasional career advice.
And he brings it from the outside in. So he does this, reeling it back, and then comes from the outside in. So it makes me feel like he's reenacting something that was outside, like on the outskirt, like, publicly perceived on the outside, Twitter, and then he's brought it in. Then it was reeling it in to the DMs probably, or something like that, yeah? Career advice.
That. And then it became more occasional career advice.
Again, what are you doing giving occasional career advice to a particular young boy from a drama school and not just doing general career advice tweets on Twitter? If it was me and some young, like, there are younger people like involved in our streams, but no one underage or anything like that. But if someone, you know, I would feel compelled to say, look, this has to, like, I talked the other day about the open door and about how if you don't want to be accused of doing something bad, then, like, for example, if I had to have an interview, I mean, I used to run a salon, you know, if I had to have an interview with a girl in the salon, I might leave the front door ajar, you know, just prop the door open, get some air in here, and then later on, if they say, oh, you attacked me, I'd say, well, do you remember when you propped the door open and I asked you to do that? Yeah, like, we've got, you know, I asked you to, I'm not going to be locking you, like, I made the door open, like. So with this, the easiest way to fix this, nip it in the bud, would have been to say, lovely to hear from you and you want career advice, I will give you that career advice publicly and give it generally, and that way we don't do the DMs anymore, but you still get your career advice. And I agree, Petty Peaches, messages being exchanged, like the little, it was almost like each dot here was like a message. There's a message, there's a message, there's a message. So that makes it feel like there was a back and forth, not just a message and then leave it for weeks, but a sort of interaction.
Thinking about television. And I said, I thought you wanted to be an actor. It's that sort of chat. And then decided on TV.
I mean, what kind of chat? I don't like this at all. Not even body language, just verbal analysis here. Like, and he's maintaining what I would say is almost like a poker face, like straight, looking them in the eye, very little expression, worried, I would say, worried about this.
Sort of chat. And then decided on TV.
If you want to see the neurolinguistic programming, he occasionally looks this way, up and this way, constructed auditory, constructed visual, which is bad for lying. We don't use this as a rule anymore, but some people still, you know, they still like the NLP, and I think me personally, yeah, I kind of still like the NLP. Kind of still a bit of, I used it a lot in my early days doing analysis of body language, so I still kind of think about this sometimes. Constructed, it's lying, like it's not a good look, and it could be that he's doing that. See how his eyes wander over to us, to me, to this direction. It could be there's something in this direction, the camera. You know, maybe that's taking his attention, but he knows not to look directly at the camera, so he's aware of it. He's like feeling the presence of that camera more than ever. Or it could be that NLP, you know, veering off into constructed.
Then decided on TV. And I said, well, I'm sure you could do come and have a look at this morning.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah. You know, some random 12-year-old or whatever. Now he's 15 or whatever. I don't know what. Again, we haven't got the timeline here. We don't know what we're really talking about. We don't really know what we should be judging here. But then you said you can come to the TV show and meet me and come in my little caravan and have a little casting couch session. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is where I would say you should admit here that this is the wrong thing, maybe, because you said you did the wrong thing. Maybe this is the wrong thing.
And then decided on TV. And I said, well,
again, if this was a 16-year-old boy who was leaving media college and Philip had done this, I would go, well, but, you know, I wouldn't feel as bad, but it's the fact that he knew him from when he was 12 makes it feel a little bit more creepy. Hello, Lottie. Yeah, we're on Twitch today because this is going to be copyright issues, I think, so we'll do it here, and we upload it to YouTube. So, I mean, this is really weird for me because I used to run a hairdressing salon, like I said, and I had young girls of various ages. I certainly wouldn't have seen the 14-year-old Saturday girls as like sexual entities. I used to treat them like, this is going to sound weird, but I used to treat them like I was like a teacher almost. Like, they used to go to school, didn't they? They were 14, so they were in that frame of mind. So, you know, like, I used to get them. Another thing I used to do is it sounds weird, I suppose, but I used to have 2 or maybe 3, not all at the same time, but I used to have 2 Saturday girls in at a time. So they've got a little friend with them, so they can do their little jobs together, but also so that there's not just me and one Saturday, because it was a small shop. Sometimes it might be me and the Saturday girls sweeping up at the end. Like, I felt that's a little bit creepy, so I'd like to have 2 of them, like, you know, and then that way they can, you know, like I said, like, have their own little, but they're not, like, I'd find it very strange that I would think, yeah, maybe in a few years when they've grown up, I could like lay the groundwork here, and then maybe like they're like young children. Like, I used to send them to McDonald's to get the sandwiches and like, you know, sweep up and stuff. The next age range up would be the college, like school leavers, college enterers who needed a job in the salon for a few days while they also did a college course, and they got, like, you know, a couple of them I remember sitting at the counters putting their makeup on and all that business, like, so they're definitely in a different step up there when they've hit 16, I think. And then after that you get grown-up stylists, and they're grown-up adults, aren't they? So we go drinking and all sorts. But I didn't used to invite the younger ones on all the drinking trips and stuff, but every now and then, you know, I'd let them have a little cheeky cigarette or a cheeky beer or something, because, like, what the fuck I did when I was 16. But I bet they all had a crush on me. I don't know. Probably not. Like, I used to prat about a lot in the salon. Like, I've had some good people in there anyway. But I mean, just from my own understanding of it, I think Philip's perspective here, it must be what he's talking about is someone in that ballpark where it didn't seem like they were in the real adult, or even entering it. Not even like the Saturday girls weren't interested in beers and cigarettes or anything naughty like that. Like, they were interested in fucking, I don't know what they're interested in. To be honest, I wouldn't be able to think back and tell you what they're interested in. Like Miley Cyrus or something. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, I find this really distasteful from Philip here to be saying this sort of stuff. Like, just the facts of what he did just don't seem to add up right, do they? Like, I can't find a world where this is not some kind, like, if it was just a general career guidance that Philip Schofield gives, then he'd be doing it for like a group of people. Like I said, he'd have made sure that he didn't look like a massive like nonce and had like multiple children there. Like multiple children, what? Multiple children, more nonce? No, it's not, is it? Because they've got their little friends and they're doing a little project together. You know, you two get the dummy heads out, and or you do a colour on her hair, and then you do a colour on her hair. I'll teach you how to do it. You know, it's like a group lesson thing. If it's just you on the one-on-one, it's different.
I'm sure you could do come and have a look at this morning for a day, which he did, and bearing in mind the connection, I wanted to look after him.
He's making it sound innocent, but it doesn't sound innocent.
So until he was picked up, I made sure he was okay. And so...
But the connection again, he said bearing the connection. I don't know what that connection is. Maybe he's friends of the family or something, because we're not getting the full... You know, the son are just choosing the bad bits here, remember? So he could have said, listen, I know his family for years. I was at his christening. You know, if that was the case, like my mate's had a baby recently, and like it's a little young kid, but if they let me look after it, like I'm not going to think, oh, it's nonsense time, am I? It's their kid. Like, I've known it since it was a baby, and as they grow up, like I'll be there as Uncle Scott, and if they need any help, or you know, if they're 12 years old and they want some guidance, they can come to Uncle Scott. Like, it's implicitly assumed that I'm not going to be noncing them. But if it's a person that Philip just met this boy at the drama school, it's different. It's not some family friend. He's not Uncle Phil. So there's a difference there, isn't there?
He worked at the show for a bit.
Yeah, agree, Petty Peachy, light tone. Athena, you're right. I do need to get some good sleep. You're right.
We became mates. And then one day, something happened that just changed it.
What? All this pausing and shaking the head and looking around. This reminds me of when you're really in the shit and you haven't, like you said, haven't got an excuse, haven't got anything to say. It's like a naughty, it almost takes me back to like a naughty child who's been caught red-handed. And like, what have you got to say for yourself? And inevitably, they've got nothing to say for themselves. Like, but at the same time, you must assume that he's remembering... like, they've been romantically involved at this stage. Like, we now know that in the long term they were romantically involved. So he must be thinking back to his early instigation of a romantic relationship.
He worked at the show for a bit.
Big ups to Sleep Perchance to Dream. I just saw your name come up in chat. Where are you? Yeah, big ups to Sleep Perchance to Dream. And big ups to anyone who's going to bed. Bye, Stargazer. Have a good night, they said. Night, Stargazer. Sleep well. Good night, Stargazer. Sleep well. Yeah, I'll carry on.
We became mates. And then one day, something happened that just changed it.
So I wonder what that was, because that's a difficult one. Like, obviously Philip's putting himself in a position of temptation, isn't he? And if it's the young boy that did something to change it, then Philip might feel that he's not guilty of anything. Oh, the young boy gave me a kiss and I didn't want to kiss him, but he gave me a kiss. But it might have been Philip that did that. Like, we don't know. And I'm supposed to read into the body language here and to try and decide, but he's giving me what I feel is a manipulative innocence. And it might have, this is weird to say this, but it might have come off innocent if Philip were younger. But he seems a bit more weathered by the world now, and it feels less so, doesn't it? It's up to him to say no, says Ordbod. Yeah, he's put himself in the situation rather than saying no, yeah. Again, we don't know what the age range is here, and we don't know what's going on. You know, not exactly, but this is all, it's starting to sound a bit pathetic.
And that's the moment, you know. That's the moment I look back on. I just assumed that somebody, somewhere, thought something was going on correctly.
Right, correctly.
But they didn't say anything. I mean...
So it's somebody else's fault now?
You know, this only... Because I actually told him that I was going to come out the morning of, or night before, or something like that. And I said, I'm going to... It's a big day tomorrow, I'm going to do this.
So we jumped right ahead in time now. We jumped like 20 years in time. Very strange. It's the editing, isn't it? Like for me as well, right? I'm trying to like put things into perspective and context, and I'm thinking like I said, like I've been in situations where I think, how do I explain this? Like in the UK, we go out drinking in the bars, and if you've got an idea, you're in the bars, like you're sort of there, and you might get chatted up. Like you don't know what goes down. Like people go around there, like bonking each other and all sorts. But it's the continuation of it for 20 years, isn't it? Like it's not like, well, this boy like he was like 16, he was overage, he was legal, and then like something happened, and we had a bit of a shag, and then that was that. And like ships that pass in the night passed. It wasn't that, was it? It was like I continued it for the next 20 years until the moment that I got found out, and then it became wrong. But every day for the last 20 years, it's been going on.
And he said, so proud of you, congratulations, I hope it goes okay.
And he says that there as if to say, like, this boy is behind me, he's my friend, he's, you can't accuse me of like being bad to this boy because he's my friend. So if he felt badly against me, then, you might be angry, but because he doesn't feel badly against me, like...
He was never going to out me. No one was going to out me.
Yeah.
There we go. Look, they're cutting him. Like they're cutting him a lot, so it's hard to judge. But here he is sucking on that. This is something I've never seen from Phillip Schofield. And again, it makes me feel like he feels he's off the record. In some way, maybe he doesn't realise this. I mean, he must realise this footage is going to be shown. But to be huffing on the vape, he must be so stressed. That must be what it is. Because I've never seen him smoke. I was making jokes about it earlier, but I've never seen him smoke. And it's like part of an identity on the TV to not be a smoker, and yet obviously Phillip is a smoker, or stopping smoking and using a vape.
Out me? No one was going to out me.
Yeah. There'll be accusations that you groomed him. I'm just going to let you answer the question.
I did not.
And he's using that like a stress squeezer.
Accusations that you groomed him.
Extreme stress from Phillip here. But what's interesting is his face isn't showing that extreme stress as much. I mean, it is showing this like nervousness, this panic, this agitation. It is, but he's keeping it. He's a TV presenter. Up to this point, he's kept it with the innocent expression. He knows the right expression to pull. He's not an actor, but he knows the right expressions to pull to deliver the lines in the right way. But underneath it, he's fucking absolutely panicking here, isn't he? Very, very stressed.
I'm just going to let you answer the question.
I did not. I did not.
Yeah.
I mean, there are accusations of all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And that's a very clear and straightforward one. So actually, in body language terms, apart from the extreme stress, the response is good.
Me?
Yeah.
I forgot what he was actually accused of here and asked, but the response he gives is believable and valid in terms of body language because it's categoric, it's not lots of qualifying language, and maybe he's just, aware enough to give the right sort of answer. Maybe, again, you'd be naive if you didn't prepare for something like this and research a bit of this stuff, so maybe he's just giving the right answer. But as a body language analysis for this one, I can say or at least he believes himself.
There'll be accusations that you groomed him. I'm just going to let you answer the question.
And there's a sadness that comes across that. Like it's almost like a gloss in his eyes. Sadness, the accusation you groomed him. This is a really big one, of course. This is the accusation. This is what we've been asked to talk about. And then, like, this might sound nuts, right? But I think Phillip actually believes that he had a romantic relationship with this young boy in some way. Like looking into the sadness here. Like, I think for Phillip, in his mind, between him and the boy, no grooming, but the rest of the world wants to put this horrible, dirty sex spin on it, and it's tarnishing what was actually quite a lovely time for them both, in his mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I sort of feel. It'd be interesting to see it from the other side, what the young boy felt, because I don't think the young boy probably felt the same as Phil, but, yeah.
I did not.
It's raining again. I couldn't be happier.
Swish, and then
AUD bod sent tippies. I'm loving this, thank you. Big loves Chuffer Red Heart Hash. Super Chuffer owes 6 hugs.
Big ups, thank you very much. I mean, I'll reiterate this as well. I think there's a difference between being, like, in the 20s, meeting someone that's slightly younger but is on the scene, so to speak, and having, you know, encounters, and meeting someone when they're 12 and knowing them for years and being Uncle Phillip, and then turning it into an ongoing sexual relationship. I think that's a bit different. So it's a weird one as well, because in the first instance, if Phillip was going around, like, let's say for example he was going around gay bars and like getting the, I'm just going to use frank language because, like, you know, we're grown-ups, you know, getting the young twinks, and he's got a thing for the young twinks, like that shit goes on. He could be doing that, but it would be like a sexual lifestyle, and the people involved would be like in the know about what was going on. So it would almost seem like, in some ways that would seem worse, wouldn't it? He's going around noncing all these little boys, but actually it would seem better because people like were on the scene and they knew what was going on. With this, even though it's just one person and it's in his mind a more maybe mature relationship or meaningful relationship, the sad part is that it's worse because it's a 12-year-old and Uncle Phil, and when you put that context on it, it's really bad, isn't it? And he's smoking when he does that answer as well. He's smoking that vape when he does the answer, so that's weird to me. Like, that's a very important answer, and he needs the crutch of the vape and the, you know, the squeezer.
Out me.
Yeah. There'll be accusations that you groomed him. I'm just going to let you answer the question.
I did not. I did not.
Well, he does say it twice, and he does say, I did not. Hang on. Like, I didn't. I did not. And to say it twice, that is a little bit of a qualifier. You know, it is a little bit of a body. I retract what I said earlier about, you know, it being a good answer. There are some issues there. I did not came twice. And then a dismissive statement. An almost condescending dismissive statement.
Answer the question.
I did not. I did not.
Or is it hopeful? That purse of the lips. Believe me, look.
I mean, there are accusations of all sorts of things.
I mean, there are accusations of all sorts of things. So that's a strange one as well, because it throws this other bigger context that says, oh, well, there could be all sorts of things. So, you know, people say, like, you know, in the wild world of rumour, there's all sorts. But no, that's not what we're talking about, is it? We're talking about a really specific thing. So it's strange that you should then bring up all these other weird other accusations that we don't know exist and don't know what they are, but you're saying they exist.
And you are still friends?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is obviously this entire...
Still smoke. Look at him, all the vape coming out, having a good old smoke on his vape. So again, I feel like he doesn't really think this is on the record in some way. Like, he's not being... I don't know how he feels that this is going to come across, smoking the vape on the camera. But it seems like a complete alien behaviour for Phil.
And you are still friends?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is obviously this entire show has... I haven't spoken to it.
It makes me wonder as well, right? Could this be filmed on a long lens? Like, does he know he's being filmed? I'm assuming the camera's set up right in front of him. And that was a very edited one as well, so I can't really get much out of a very edited one, but there's a look of panic and, you know, the smoking's going on. Very strange for Phil.
This entire show has... I haven't spoken to it.
And they cut him off, this entire shit show, and so I can't really do much with that because they cut him off, and they just... Like, they're really trying to make him look bad by just editing in all the worst bits, I think.
So yeah, this is that. There's the difference.
Yeah.
It is accepted by Leonardo DiCaprio. It is not accepted if it's in the gay world.
What?
Although we both know that it happens in every world. That people are attracted to or have relationships with, wise or otherwise, with
Children? Children? Is that what you want to say? What are you saying here? I think the way I contextualised it earlier was a bit more... Like, it requires a bit more nuance. But I agree, you know, older men go out with younger women. Older ladies have sex with younger boys. Like, once you're over a certain threshold, it becomes a bit of a... you know, there's... I want to say free-for-all, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, the world of human interaction. But... I don't think it's the same in every... I don't think in every world, like, I don't think it's about being gay or not. You know, I don't think that... I think the same questions would be brought up with Leonardo DiCaprio if he'd invited a 12-year-old girl onto the set and cultivated a relationship with her over a long period of time.
That it happened.
Like, but when Leonardo DiCaprio bumps into somebody who's over the age of consent and they think, oh, sexy Leo, and they jump on him, like, you kind of don't say, oh, well, Leonardo DiCaprio's noncing about, do you? Because, like, Like you can kind of contextualize it in a different way.
In
I got a question. In chat. This is just a weird one. I want to know because you're all here and like I just want to know. Like when you were 16, would you have shagged Leonardo DiCaprio? Oh, they're in their 20s, not kids. Okay, I didn't know that. I just like as the context. Like Petty Peachy says yes, perhaps. Like there's a difference as well, isn't there, between like jumping on Leonardo DiCaprio for a bit of a romp around and then going about your business, growing up and having a sort of like cheeky story that you've got in your stories. But I mean, like I said, I lost my virginity when I was 15. I know people around me around the age of 16, sex was on the menu. People were trying to do it, and if it had come up from a glamorous and seductive celebrity, they'd have tried to do that as well. But then they wouldn't have been his like permanent long-term girlfriend. That would have been a bit more weird, wouldn't it? So it doesn't make it right though, says Ordbod. Yeah, but the difference is, right, is whether, I think for me, the difference is whether you're abusing your position of power or you're grooming, like there was a question at the start, or whether this other person is coming to you consensually because they're attracted to you and they want what they want as well, like with a full open mind and understanding. And I don't know how open and full your mind can be at 16, but I remember me at 16 thinking, you can't tell me what to do. Like, I was smoking and drinking for Christ's sake. Like I wasn't some naive 14-year-old being, manipulated by the world. I completely had my eyes open, but that's me. So but I was still naive in lots of ways, of course, but between the ages of 16 to 18, 20, you start to grow up, don't you? I don't know. Interesting question though, isn't it?
every world.
But so Philip has contextualised it like that. He is now Leonardo DiCaprio, and this boy is just some... But it's not like that. So I agree with what Phil's saying in some ways. It's accepted in our society. I'm not saying I accept it. I'm not saying that I'm the judge here and I'm saying it's right. I'm saying that in society, it goes on and people don't take everyone down for noncing all over the show because they've got a younger partner or had a younger partner. Whereas what Philip's done is different.
People are attracted to or have relationships with, wise or unaware.
Here's another one. Petty Peachy says she had a job then when she was doing A-levels. I distinctly remember the girls in sixth form, right, when I was on the school bus. I fucking fancied this girl on the school bus. She was about my age, but she was going out with a 20-something-year-old bloke. Like, the older lads who had the cars and the... Like, do you know what I mean? Like, when the girls hit like 17 and 16, 17, they wanted to go out with the older boys who had got the cars and stuff. And me, the same age, didn't really get a look in. So I remember that they were doing it. Like, not in this level, but do you know what I mean? Like, one of them had a boyfriend who was in a band. Like, he was quite grown up. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, to them, it was like a... and this might not be the same for all girls, and I'm talking specifically about my experience of being on the bus and the particular girls on my bus, but I think that it was almost to them like a status symbol to get an older boyfriend who had a car, stuff like that. Not about cars. Petty Peachy's saying it's about emotional maturity. We naively think at 16 that older boys will be less twatty. Maybe it's that. But they certainly, like, they were more glamorous. They had the guitars and the cars and they were in the bands, and like, whereas the lads their age were wanting to be like that and were aspiring to it, but we didn't. I didn't have my driver's license yet. Maybe it's different from boys and girls. Maybe in some way, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I'm just chatting.
Otherwise, with people of different ages.
I mean, the Romans used to have little boys in the baths, but it doesn't mean that that's, for you, Philip, an acceptable thing to have done.
Yes, I see how it looks from the outside world. I see what it looks like.
There's all this shaking of the head, and I see it, and
Yeah.
and a slight up of the shoulders, and actually, that's contentious to me. It's like, I see what you're saying, but fuck you. I don't think I've done anything wrong.
And yes, I see how it looks.
Like,
People of different ages.
just again that. So we've got people of different ages thing, and he dispels it. So he's like trying to dispel this, like dispel this thing, and then.
And yes, I see how it looks from the outside world. I see what it looks like.
Yeah.
There is.
I see what it looks like. Got cut off again. I think it's a shame we're not getting to see the full interview here, but
Categorically no toxicity in there, and the only people who create that are the people who have their own toxicity.
This is the question of whether there's a bigger overarching group of people involved. He says there's no toxicity and the people who create it have got their own toxicity. So now he's talking about other almost clandestine groups in a way. And I don't know what, well, maybe he's talking about the media and stuff, like they're making it toxic and it was a lovely, like he's trying to paint it out like it was innocent. And the, like toxicity, I believe, means something to do with innocence. Like, I'm a bit confused about this.
And if you, I'm assuming if you are that sort of a person, then it follows you round, perhaps. But Ranj, I saw him a few months ago, and he was lovely, really lovely. And I don't know why he would do that. I don't know what is the reason.
So again, this is hard for me to read because they're talking about something specific, and they've not told us exactly what they're talking about. So it's hard for me to read because I don't really know what his context is here.
To stab something that's been really good to you. And maybe he wasn't asked back on again. I don't know. I don't book the guests.
Here's a question as well, right? Saying people who call them paedophiles are toxic. He's saying, okay, he's saying it's not grooming, you're bad because you're calling it that, and people who call them paedophiles are toxic. Okay, I understand that aspect. It is interesting as well, though, isn't it, that normally we would be talking about, like, there's a disgusting idea that there's something called a hebiophile, which is in between a paedophile and an adult, like normal, which is like someone who is into young teenagers or something, right? So it's almost like Phil's going on this argument in a way and saying, like, they're not children, it's not toxic. But again, that's shifting the goalposts a little, isn't it? It's sitting somewhere outside of exactly what we're talking about, because that's not exactly, like, he was 12. Dr. Ranj came out and said the atmosphere was toxic because of Phil on this morning. The photo comes out the next day of Ranj with Matthew, calling young Matthew a stud. I don't know who Matthew is. Is Matthew the boy? This whole bit here, this is between Phil and some of his friends on this morning, so maybe I should read more into it about this overarching, concept, but I find it difficult.
Something that's been really good to you. And maybe he wasn't asked back on again. I don't know. I don't book the guests. And I don't know why he would do that. I don't know what is the reason to stab something that's been really good to you. And maybe he wasn't asked back on again. I don't know. I don't book the...
We don't like this sort of body language. We saw it on Penny, the caravan park owner, in a positive way, where she had nothing more to say. She's literally out of ideas. She's got nothing more to say on this issue. We could say that, but here it's much more of a believe me innocence plea from Phil. And again, I don't book the guests, so deflection to somebody else about this atmosphere of toxicity. It's almost like he wants to say, I've got nothing to say on this issue.
Guests. We neither of us have any say in who comes on or what. You can go in with a good idea and say, I've just been watching this series, can we see if we can get that person because we love it? Yeah, we'll see if we can book them. That's the sum total of that.
Who's the person who's given the...
He's leaning in here. We jump forward. Now he's leaning in. He's feeling more comfortable.
biggest apology to you?
But he's still... This is now more soothing than stress relief in a way.
Who was the person who was hardest for you to tell?
Steph.
The biggest apology to you? Who was the person who was hardest for you to tell?
Steph.
How did you do that?
She got off a plane and I phoned her up and I texted her and said, I need to...
Oh, right. Yeah, that's wonderful, yeah. Important thing you need to talk to your wife about. She got off the plane. I texted her. That's particularly bad. Like, you'd think this would be a face-to-face conversation, wouldn't you? I mean, I assume she already knew.
I've got something to tell you. And she called me back and I told her, and she was very, very angry.
He's whispering almost. He's gone very quiet. And that's because this is something that he feels... He's very sensitive. And he feels distant from it. It's like a sad memory.
And I told her, and she was very, very angry.
Very, very angry. And his stomach went as well. You heard a little bit of his tummy. Bit of pity, yeah, but I actually think this is reflecting on a very sad moment in his life, I think. I think if I were to try and describe moments of recent trauma and breakups. Like, I don't know how recent this was again, but I think he's going quiet because it's actually very difficult for him to talk about as well.
She's
He's sucking on that thing again.
she must have heard it or read the rumours. Someone would have told her. So did she ask you or confront you at the time?
Yep. I lied to her as well.
What did you say? What did she?
This is interesting because he sucks on that thing deeply, very stressed, doing the squeezes, staring off into the distance, vacant almost, trying to... It's almost like he wants to be detached from this moment himself. Like, he's finding this very difficult. But interestingly, when she asked the question, he comes straight back in. He's being honest here, I feel. And one of the problems is with Philip is that he's being honest, but his honesty and the way he contextualises it in his own mind is not the same as the way we contextualise it in the wider world. And I wonder whether he sort of convinced himself of a lie over a long period of time. Like, instead of coming to terms with this, like, what would have probably been good is if at some point he'd come to terms with the idea this relationship was wrong and then just completely left it alone. I think if he'd done that, you might be able to say, like, well, at least he, didn't carry it on for 20 years. But I think he sort of, talked his own, instead of, in some ways, in this position, you could like write a little thing, construct a little narrative and then say it out loud, and that's your little speech, and you're going to try and stick to the line, and that's kind of scripting. But I think what's instead happened is over 20 years, it's been, hasn't it? So I keep saying 20 years, I don't know exactly how long, but, over these years, he's, in his mind, like, created an alternate truth to this that he like it's his truth, like the way he sees it, and maybe it's compiled by the maybe it's made more by the fact that this young boy, as he's grown up, has still been into Phil, and like, as Phil said, like, I don't know if he did say, like, but like, they're still friends. Like, the boy is not angry at him, so Phil's saying, like, the rest of the world doesn't know what's going on, but this boy still loves me, so how can I have been mean to him? Like, maybe a bit of that false reality. Yeah,
I just said it's untrue.
She believed you.
he swore
Yeah,
that. They cut out his swearing.
I just said...
And again, the fact that he's swearing, smoking that thing, I do think he doesn't think this is going to be on the telly. It really makes me feel like he's not... Like, it's a naivety to be smoking that thing and swearing in this interview when you're trying to manipulate your public image. Or maybe he's not. Maybe he's trying to just be honest. And maybe he feels that this smoking thing is a symbol of his honesty. You've never seen me smoke before. This is Phil uncut,
She must have
But
heard
really, the
it.
truth is, he just fucking needs it because he's so stressed.
The rumours. Someone would have told her. So did she ask you or confront you at the time?
Yep. I lied to her as well.
What did you say? What did she say?
I just said it's untrue.
She believed you.
Yeah, we should have no reason to. I haven't lied to her about anything else.
And did
Yeah. Obviously, she didn't. There's always been this undercurrent in the relationship. She's been asking him. He's told her, and they can no longer talk about it because he's given her the answer. But it doesn't mean she believed it.
your daughters, that must have been a very hard conversation.
They were unbelievable. They are incredible. They are, without question, our greatest asset.
Yeah.
The last time we had a conversation was when I texted Holly and said, "Don't reply." This is after the statement last week. "Don't reply. You're probably not allowed to. But I am deeply, deeply sorry that I lied to you."
So again, we're texting people. He's talking about Holly, the co-presenter, telling her not to reply. You're probably not allowed to. And this is a statement from Phil of his own nobility, that he's being so noble that he's, reaching out to poor Holly and doesn't even require a reply. He just wants to make sure that you feel that he said sorry. And Sarah, is there an echo in here? What are you saying? You're all right. You're not talking about sound. You're talking about things you're saying in chat, aren't you? Big ups.
And I am.
What?
I am deeply, deeply sorry that I lied to you. And I am.
And I am. I didn't just text her to say it. I actually meant it.
It was the one secret in our sanctuary that was never mentioned.
She's been affected by this.
She's been massively affected by it.
You see, the lighting has changed here, so he's been going for a while. Maybe like the sun's gone down a bit.
I apologise. I can only...
Affected by this.
She's been massively affected by it. And I can only apologise. I let her down. I let everybody down.
Wringing the hands. I mean, this is correct now, to be fair, though, to acknowledge it and to make a statement of contrition. I do think that it's important. Like, obviously, certain crimes we don't want to just be like, oh well, you can say sorry and just walk away. But it's important that if someone does make a statement of contrition, like, it's not just to say I'm sorry. It's to say what you did that was wrong and to acknowledge that it was wrong, you know, and then try and make, like, you can't make amends in the short-term repairing relationships, but you can live better, you know what I mean, and then, like, hope for more. But so in some ways, but it's weird that this is surrounding Holly rather than surrounding the young boy. Like, these statements are all about whether Holly felt sad and he'll take that on the chin and be the big noble. I'm really sorry, Holly, but you know, it's not really Holly that like, Holly's had to sit next to him on the telly and she feels bad because she's had to sit next to the pedo all this time, basically. Yeah, like, that's what I've said pedo, he's not, but you know what I mean, like, that's Holly's attitude is, I can't believe, you know, you've dragged me through this. So, like, okay, you can be sorry to her, yeah, but that's like an additional side problem with the real main issue.
And I can only apologise. I let her down. I let everybody down. I let that entire show down. I let the viewers down. I let everybody, I let my family down. I let my friends down. I let myself down. I let him down. I let everybody down. And it is something that is crushing me. And to that unbelievable, non-toxic, wonderful, talented, kind team, I am bereft.
What? I'm bereft? To that team, I'm bereft. It's a weird statement, but I believe he pre-planned those words, and very heavily is absolving the entire team on this morning of any negative. You know, he will not poke a fight with them.
I understood why ITV had to take the position they did, of course. I understand why my management agency...
And again, this is difficult, right? Because
so they lied to ITV.
What's happening here is, he's saying, I understand the way, and the eyebrows have come up again, innocence, believe me, look, putting a big problem into strange legal... I understand why they had to do, you know, I'm not angry at these people. Of course you're not, because you've done the bad chuffing thing. Like, but he's making it into some sort of mitigation. That's the word I'm looking for. A mitigation of, oh, well, you know, I had to leave the show because this, and then I lied to them, and so they had to. But really, I'm still a good chuffer, and I should probably still be in the telly, shouldn't I, you know? But obviously not with This Morning. I understand why This Morning can't have me anymore. But in general, though, like, it's you know, do you know what I mean? It feels like a mitigation.
So, of course I understand that. And you watch all of these sheds, you shed your life, you know, you watch all these layers of you slide away and slide away and slide away.
Slide away. Slidey, slimy. Slimy, sliming, sliding. I just don't like that bit at all.
You shed your life, you know, you watch all these layers of you slide away and...
What you mean is, you've built up a veneer of facade. The world doesn't really know who Phillip Schofield is. You've got layers of slimy layers that you've built up. And you were, yeah, good call, Jessica S. Like a snake, shedding those skins. And deep down, underneath these onion layers, is the real Phil. And because of this process, it's not that you're shedding them and allowing them to drift away. And, like, you know, people are stripping you of them. And to him, it's bringing to mind not a dry shedding of a husk, you know, not a cracking of a pupa and a revealing of a butterfly, but of a slimy removal of almost like I want to say, like, you know, in horror movies where they come out of like a shell and they're slimy underneath it and they have to get that horrible slime off, like a birthing almost, like a rebirthing. Maybe he's meaning a rebirthing in some way. Like, maybe he sees this as an opportunity for even at this early stage of this problem, well, it's been a 20-year problem, isn't it? But maybe he sees this as an opportunity for a rebirth, like I said, like rebirthing. Maybe that's the thing that's going on in his mind. But it's a very strange choice of words. And what he revealed to us through it is that we've not been seeing the real Phillip. He's been building a facade around his life for many years. And I can understand that, because he's a TV presenter. And he like, no, I'm smiling, I'm on the TV. And yeah. But you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Well, I say that as a generality, but
you shed your life, you know, you watch all these layers of you slide away and slide away and slide away. The things that were dear to you.
The things that were dear to you, and the fact they slide away, it's almost like you can't keep a grip on them, they slide. You know, it's sliding happens without much force and push, you know, things just slip and slide. You can't keep your footing. It's slid away. So he's watched these things just slide away, you know. I think he has felt that he's lost aspects of his, like, you know, his life would have been built up of like family life routines, simple things, calls to the wife and stuff like that. Things have now slid away. This morning, the routine of that's slid away. He couldn't keep a hold of it. It's slippy, slidey, it's gone, sliding away on the ice. Faster than he imagined as well. Faster than he imagined.
But I deserve it. It's my fault.
He says, shaking his head. This is, again, facing things with nobility, taking them on the chin. But do you deep down believe it? No.
I deserve it. I don't throw people under the bus.
I deserve it is a statement, I believe.
It's my fault. I deserve it.
And it's only quick and it's edited off, but I believe almost, like, he says it with a condescending sneer almost, like, people around him think he deserves it. Like, you think I deserve this. You think I'm a bad person and I deserve to be hurt. And Philip, to himself, doesn't believe that. Doesn't really believe he deserves this. In fact, I think he thinks the opposite, that he doesn't deserve all this stuff because all he did was have a beautiful relationship that was, you know, 20 years of a... Anyway, look.
I don't...
Oh, also dancing on ice. Slide away facing... And you put dancing in chat there. He does dancing on ice, doesn't he? So maybe that's an analogy. Maybe he's worried about that other final aspect of his televisual life because he was going to be still presenting that, wasn't he? But maybe he's not now. You know, maybe he's thinking about... He's got a list of things that he does on the telly and they're all one by one sliding away.
Throw people under the bus. But I have a very good instinct for these things.
I threw you under the bus, really.
What?
It's my fault. I deserve it. I don't throw people under the bus.
Note the lighting has changed. This is now from earlier, so we're getting this jumpy edit. The Sun are trying to make him look bad.
But I have a very good instinct for these things.
I threw you under the bus, really.
I have a very good instinct for these things, and I knew it was a bad thing to do, but there is no...
Now listen, I've got a very good instinct for these things, and I knew... most of us have got a very similarly instinct about 12-year-old boys. Well, not the similar instinct as Phil had, I assume, but I think most of us instinctively know that it's probably a bad thing to do. Jesus.
No reason that the justification that was given to me shouldn't have been true.
Dry mouth, gulping, problematic, anxiety, maybe deception.
Justification that was given to me shouldn't have been true. You are journalists, loosely, and you are covering a massive story. Therefore, I want you to cover it. As indeed 700 other journalists did exactly the same thing. There was no jumping of a queue, and I knew my face.
Oh, we're now talking... This is fucked up by the Sun. Why are they doing this? They're talking about the queue jump now. Now he's talking about the queue jump. So that was wrong what I said about this instinctive feeling. It was wrong. I thought he was talking about a 12-year-old boy. See how they make him look bad? That's a bit unfair. You're a journalist loosely, yeah? He's having a pop at them, yeah? Totally having a pop at them. Totally having a pop at them. But then you don't know what the setup is. You don't know who this person is. This person might not be the editor of The Sun that is definitely a journalist. This might be some lady who has said, oh, you know, I sometimes work with some different things. Can we have a chat and get it, you know, and like, you know, I'll help you out and make sure it looks good. And then they've sold it straight to The Sun. Like, you don't quite know, but I assume he's talking to people that work for The Sun, and he's saying that because he's having a pop at The Sun. But this is now about whether he jumped in front with the Queen. It's this other thing, like Alan. When Alan jumped in front with the Queen.
Was no jumping of a queue, and I knew my face. My face is. Oh, we shouldn't be here. I don't feel right. And we looked. It didn't feel right. And the thing was, what was sad was that it wrecked what I wanted to do on the day. I wanted to go and stand at the end of my road and watch her go past as she went out to Windsor. But of course then you can't be anywhere near it. So it was assumed and hoped that...
Very careful there. That pause and that. I mean, this is not about the main issue now, but very careful there, that pause, while he puts together his sort of legal angle in his head.
So...
And standing at the front of the road, it's very nice, isn't it, if you live in a road near Windsor where you can look at it going past.
It was assumed and hoped that we would be treated in the same way as the 700 journalists.
Actually, I think he was remembering something there that was written down or was said to him that they've had a conversation about. You know, I think that was a production meeting that he's repeating the exact lines of. It was assumed, in, like, there's a statement. It was assumed and hoped that, you know, it feels much like that.
It was assumed and hoped that we would be treated in the same way as the 700 journalists who walked through that separate door and didn't file past the coffin and walked down the side of the room and stood and watched the people so you could say what the faces were like, what the atmosphere was like. We did that, and then we left. And within seconds, there was the photo of the two of us. Why us? We were texting each other backwards and forwards, and I said to Holly, I knew I should have gone with my gut, and she said, I know.
Is that why she did the on-air apology and you looked fairly seething?
No, there was nothing to be read into that.
Right.
Nothing to be read into that. You either get a link or you don't get a link, or you get something else.
Did you apologise on air, or were you frustrated?
We were struggling with the fact that we didn't have anything to apologise for. We hadn't done anything wrong. And
there we go. We're not talking about the boy here, but that's a subtext of what we've been talking about today, and it's come out in the Queen conversation. He doesn't really feel he's done anything wrong. That's my overall take on this. So, in answer to my top 3 questions, the noncing stuff, like, it's a funny hard word, isn't it? Like, I think that he's probably not in the same ballpark as general paedophile, you know, going around like, oh, school kids, like that. I don't think he's doing that. I think he legit had a one-to-one connection with a particular person who may have seemed either more interested, attractive. Like, this boy may have made himself seem a bit more grown up to Phil, like playing up to it in some way, whatever. It's gone on, and Phil does not feel he's done anything. Like, he doesn't feel he's in the nonce category. He doesn't feel he's done anything wrong, really. In terms of the second question, which was, did he groom him? Again, Phil feels that he didn't. But we feel, from his testimony, that he kind of did. Like, there was that really difficult bit where he deliberately talked around it, but like invited one particular person to come onto the set of This Morning, and that one particular person was interested in a career in television. I mean, you're Phillip Schofield on the fucking telly, mate. Like, that was the moment where I think I would agree grooming took place, because he knew in his mind what he was interested in, I think. Is that fair, do you think? Or is it, I don't even, like, I think we still need to hear testimony from the boy, because it's like, if Matthew says, I had no interest in Phillip Schofield sexually, I just wanted to get in the telly, and then over time, like, we spent a lot of time together, and I started to feel something for it, like, that feels a bit dodge. But if it was like, I fucking love Phillip Schofield, and I always wanted to shag him, so the minute he let me go into the telly, I was straight on his dick, like, that's different, isn't it, if he says it like that? So, I've got no, but a 12-year-old wouldn't probably say that, would they? So, that's where I have to remind myself again, like, I keep thinking that this relationship started at a later stage in the boy's life, but from what I'm learning today, I don't think it did. So yeah, Phillip doesn't feel he did anything wrong. In terms of the grooming, Phillip's wrong. We kind of think he did. And then in terms of the bigger plot at ITV, Phillip is very careful to state that ITV are not toxic and he has no ill will against them. Possibly, of course, professionalism at this stage. Because you start, I tell you what, you Phillip and you throw them under the bus at this stage, you've got no idea what might come out. Have you? Like the producers over the years, like, oh, hang on, he's saying this about the show that we worked on. Hang on, I don't think this is right. You know, you don't want to start a row with them, do you, Phillip? So he's been very careful around ITV and the toxic nature of their show. I don't know if Philip's a narcissist. I haven't judged him on that front, but the difficulty with what I've seen today is that it's not. I believe it's not. The difficulty with what I've seen today is I believe that it's Philip being almost. I've said I'm sorry and wrong, and I didn't even do anything that bad. So can we just let me off and move on now? I think it's got a feel of that to it, which I don't think is the right tone at this moment for what's been happening.